Stanford University. That's how she got on the no-fly list. Well, the government's not going to talk about it. In fact, according to Wired, the government won't even respond to any of Professor Ibrahim's claims. And this is coming from U.S. Attorney Lily Farrell. The Obama administration maintains that the basic question of whether Ibrahim is on a watch list or not is, in fact, a state secret itself, and hence is privileged and confidential, even in a civil lawsuit against the government. Now, that's one of the government's claims. Another claim the government is making is that she's not a U.S. citizen, which is true, and therefore, what rights does she really have? She can fly anywhere she wants to in the world. This merely affects whether she can come into the United States. Now, of course, she claims that this is really unfair, and she says that she would like to collaborate freely with colleagues in the U.S. and other countries. I would like my children not to hate America because of what happened to me. It's not the tact I would have taken in this, but I would like for nobody to go through what happened to me. Now, before you start to think about whether this only affects people who are non-U.S. citizens, keep in mind that as of December 2012, this is according to the National Counterterrorism Center, there were over 875,000 people on this list. And U.S. persons, including both citizens and legal permanent residents, they make up less than 1% of the listings. But how crazy can this get? It's not just people from foreign countries. It's not just non-U.S. citizens. It can even include 6-year-old American girls.
6-year-old Alyssa Thomas is like any little girl.
Ta-da!
She loves her dolls, and she's already excited about the first grade. But according to the U.S. government, you should be worried about what she's up to. Dr. Santosh Thomas was just made aware that his oldest daughter is on the list, the terror watch list that impacts travelers who could be a threat to national security.
Pretty sure she's not a threat to national security, so why is she on the list and how can she get off of it? Well, joining us now is our good friend Tim Clemente. He knows about this stuff. He's a former FBI counterterror investigator and special agent. Tim, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Buck.
Tim, first let's start with the utility of a list that has over 875,000 people on it. According to the NCTC's own figures, how can this be effective, useful, or helpful and not just sort of a giant mishmash of different names thrown together and just harassing a lot of people that have nothing to do with any terrorism?
Well, I can neither confirm nor deny. In order, if I could quote DHS on this. I think the problem is that there's a lot of names that are on that list, obviously, that are Arabic names, because, obviously the reason the list was begun was because of 9/11. Arab terrorists, Islamic extremists attacked us. And the problem is that Arabic names don't translate to English. They have to be transliterated. They literally have to, you have to play with the letters and the combination of letters to form the names again. So one individual's name may be transliterated 20 or 30 different ways. So that list of 875,000 names might be 12 people. It's impossible to know. So the problem is that all those different transliterations of a name from Arabic into a Western language like English could now create a net for each of those names for hundreds and thousands of other people that have close names. And this woman and this organization, that she's involved with, that's not Jamaat Islamiyah, gets caught up into that web. And the problem is that it's a lack of knowledge of the culture and the cultural naming conventions that the people at DHS and the people that oversee this list have. That's why we can have so many problems with it.
But my problem with this, Tim, is don't we spend billions of dollars every year on DHS, on counterterrorism stuff, that we can't, in 8 years, we can't hire people who specialize in this area that can figure it out in 8 freaking years, that this isn't the right, for this woman, that there's a difference between where she's from in Malaysia and the organization versus a terrorist organization. I mean, the ineptitude of the bureaucracy here and the money that we invest in this to get it right is beyond me. Why can't they get it right?
The list, like I said, it can be an all-encompassing net, but when she goes to buy a ticket and goes to step on an airline to come to the United States of America, then some flag flies up in the system that sends it to DHS that says, hey, this name, similar to the name you entered, is trying to board a plane in Malaysia to come to the United States. And then some individual looks at it, knows nothing about either of those names or what they might mean or what the kunyas and the ibns mean and everything else that are in Arabic names. And so they see the similarity and think, oh, better to be safe than sorry, so I'm just going to deny this person the right to fly.
Kunyas being
so
adopted
it's human
names,
error,
Ibns
not
being,
just the database.
Kunya, adopted name, people take it for purposes of waging jihad and also even being son of. But I want to go to you for a second. It seems to me that also the daughter here claims that she was added onto this list, so she could not come here to testify. We're taking the defense's word for all of this, as Tim points out. Neither confirming nor denying, but shouldn't one have the right to challenge whether or not they're on a list that affects their employment and such, even if they're a non-U.S. citizen? It's not like non-U.S. citizens have no protection in this country.
Right, that was
well, they have no protection until they're in the country. They don't have any when they're on the outside. But yes, it's a matter of fairness, I think. I mean, the problem here is all government lists are a mess. By definition, you want to keep the number of things that rely on government lists at a minimum because these sorts of things happen and unjustly people get caught in the net. It's probably impossible to limit this completely because we actually do need a no-fly list. I think that's one function of government I defend. I'd just actually be interested to know what Tim Clemente would do if, say, he were put in charge of the system, if he were given carte blanche. How would he fix it? What is the solution here?
Well, I think the solution is going to be make sure that the people in charge of the list have that cultural knowledge so they can sift through that and say, okay, you have 30 different versions of the name Abdullah. Oh, these are the possibilities. So when somebody's name, Abdul Rahman, is in that system, that person might transliterate their name as Abd, apostrophe, El-Rahman, Abdul Rahman as one word. And so what happens is then you take that and separate those words, and they're literally meaningless when they're separated because it means servant of the merciful. That's what it means in Arabic. And so we have so many times where we refer to people by part of a name, and then that part of the name ends up on a list, or that's what they look at. They looked at Rahman as a second name, and anybody that comes up with a name similar then gets flagged. You have to have people that have a constant flow of people that have that institutional knowledge to be regulating these lists. So when the name is checked...
Can't we pull a 6-year-old off there, though, pretty fast?
Yeah,
Can't we just tell the 6-year-old you're not on the list anymore?
I feel like do you
remember when Ted Kennedy was flagged trying to get on a flight at National Airport?
That might have been
I was going to say, that might have been a security risk.
I mean, I think that this poses a serious problem, and my question is, shouldn't there be a way for people to challenge their name being on the list? For example, this little girl, Alyssa Thomas, I'm sure she's not the only one out of 875,000 names who's on there and probably isn't a threat to the country. So my question is, what do we do about this? I mean, shouldn't we be able to challenge a name being on the list?
But to Buck's point, sources and methods are important. The government can't admit everything that it does.
Right,
I do
but we don't
think
even know the
reviewing
sources
and
and
scrubbing is really important. Well, that's the point. You shouldn't know the sources and methods because there are a lot of things the government
does.
But what
if it was
you
you on the
know
list?
About. Well, then,
you want to know why they put you on the list?
I would defend, though, you ought to scrub it. You need to be able to scrub. You have to be scrubbing it. You need to inform people. That's a great point. In thinking about this subject, I hadn't even thought about the names and the colloquialism. I mean, that is so complicated.
This is the key thing, though, is that